actually concerned that from a legal standpoint, the real danger here is somebody saying, we have enough money, we're going to go ahead and test every one of those mail ballot things constitutionally. And what will happen is that may be a disenfranchisement type of situation. You can't resolve people dying, okay? There's nobody here on this board has an ability to resurrect things. Elections are dead serious. And the dead serious aspects, there's people realizing just how dangerous it is. And given the state of the world today, it's very dangerous. But you have to make sure, put in place those safeguards up front to make sure that any kind of election that occurs is as equal as possible. So what I'm seeing from the process standpoint, you can't take and distribute things and say, we're going to be certifying over here, and this is another certification over here by two different groups. And it can't just be rubber stamping by the authorities, the canvassing authorities in the towns. They can't just simply be saying, oh, that's okay. Is it possible, or what do you think, can you use an unconstitutional process to change the Rhode Island Constitution? Is it possible?
To use an unconstitutional process?
Yes, because that's clearly what is at stake. Can you use an unconstitutional process to change a constitution? The document itself has to be authentic, correct? The results of how you change it has to be authenticated. And if we don't have that picture, we don't have the means of authenticating, we the people, meaning everybody, then we have a problem. And I'm actually looking out for the mail ballot voters, really.
I understand your perspective. I would push back in saying that, you know, the local check on the first end of the process is strengthened by the state check on the back end of the process, so that there are two pain points where those signatures are verified. And I would say, in large part, and you're talking globally, I understand that, in large part, I'm sorry.
Rhode Island Universal, yes.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
I want to make sure we're right.
Yeah. In large part, I think people are comforted by the fact that there's a front-end check and a back-end check done by different folks. I mean, a lot of our elections processes count on people doing the right thing. It counts.
It's a code of ethics.
Yeah, that's how it works, right? And while we can talk about a local process, you know, those local folks are appointed as well, and there's politics involved in that, right? Our entire system depends on, obviously, transparency, but it also depends on good people doing the right thing in these systems. And by and large, I believe in Rhode Island we have good people doing the right things, and we do have an open process that you can look at and that you can witness. You may not be able to be in two places at the same time, but you can have people you trust witness that if you need to be in another place at that same time, so to speak. Yeah. So I would push back that way. I understand exactly what you're saying. I'm not misunderstanding your point. I'm just saying that my point of view, and I don't think I won any of the towns in this area. My point of view is accessibility is important. And I think that the ballot should be accessible in multiple ways so that as many Americans can participate in the process as possible, as long as we set up a structure that is safe. And if we see that we need to make improvements in that process, then we should do so. And so that's, but I understand, I 100% understand your point. Yes.
Well, I was just going to say, like, you know, I really appreciate that you are against, like, federalizing elections, you know, and even, like, ranked choice voting, I agree, it's a total mess. Like, it's just crazy. But, you know, but just, like, this thing, I just trying to get over this idea of, like, how the Board of Elections is handling all of the mail-in ballots. To me, it just, like, I'm just seeing a black box. Like, I just can't help it. I'm seeing this black box where, like, you know, we are centralizing. Like, if I wanted to, you know, mess with the elections in Rhode Island, I would know all I have to do is control the Board of Elections. That's all I have to do. Because I can say how many mail-in ballots come through, I can do whatever I want, send it back to the, and especially if it's not a small district like Coventry or Exeter, if it's in Providence or Pawtucket or Central Falls or one of these places where there's more population, how would the local clerks really even know if the number they're getting back is accurate from the Board of Elections? Like, I feel like it could be a lot more difficult to confirm that. Right? That, like, oh, this many mail-in ballots came through, we approved this many mail-in ballots for your district, and if there's, you know, so many voting places, and it's more, it's more decentralized already, even within the community. How would they might just say, oh, well, the other clerks, this other polling, whatever, they must have that number, right? Like, it would be there. It just seems like that's such a space for error, or for manipulation. That just, why can't we just hire what we need locally, and also just like, since it is a top-down thing, like, you're able to see across the entire state what the numbers are. Why can't we keep it decentralized until everyone uploads their numbers, have it all, and then, okay, that's what it is, right? And the state sees that. But instead, we're able to have this bird's eye view of everything at this one place, because mail-in ballots do take up a significant percentage of our votes. It just seems like, it seems dangerous.
There is a cross-check between the locals and the Board of Elections on what was requested and what came back. Now, clearly, not everybody sends their mail ballots back, right? If you had an excess number of what was requested, that would be obviously a red flag. So there is that check that is looked at in what was requested and what was returned.
And we'd be doing a disservice if we had to send you to Coventry and Exeter and Tiverton and Little Compton and Burrillville and Providence to get mail ballot numbers when we can give you the entire state. And to the gentleman's point in the back, if there's an issue with the process, I certainly understand some may think that, and we're just operating under the law, and we have a process that we have to follow. But we want to take the information that we have and make it as readily available as possible, so that you don't have to sit at Coventry Town Hall during the 20 days of early voting and watch people check them in. We can provide that information on a nightly basis, so you don't have to leave your house. Same thing with the mail ballots, so that you don't have to go to every single city in town and see where the mail ballots have come in and where they haven't. We're providing that data for you within the confines of what the process is spelled out via the law. So we're just living within what the law tells us to do, and we're trying to make the information as transparent as possible.
And I think the nature of the reporting on election night builds confidence in the system. I mean, we report as quick as any state in the nation.
So effectively, reporting that rapid, quick reporting.
Even though those are unofficial results.
I understand the unofficial results, and I understand there's also the USB drives, the thumb drives and stuff that are in there. The unofficial results, neither of you can sit there and tell me with 100% confidence that those machines have not been talking or do not talk, because there is an installed cellular modem in the DS200s that Rhode Island uses to give you those instant results. No one here that is sitting on here, nor can anybody else there, tell me with any kind of confidence the machines are not remotely accessed, and that there wasn't a wake-up time in the software or anything else. I can go as far as deep as you would like to go. I understand all of those things. So there's an accountability issue there, and I don't want to have to monitor the whole 9 yards. When it comes down to the integrity of the process, yes, there's individuals that have to be ethical and do what is necessary, but there's also a way of taking and making those black boxes that this young lady's talking about. And one of those things that you have in terms of the results is having machines that have that capability in them. And that was intentional. That was by design. And yes, it may be that people have to wait, but it used to be like, okay, just give me the phone call and somebody would send it up. How do you transmit information that is going to be collected together? That actually does say that there's a much more equal process, that there has to be an equal process. But does the media time that's saved, is that actually worth it to have that kind of instant result at the expense of other people not being to validate, not having that ability to see and authenticate that was a genuine result? It's a local thing versus the centralized thing.
Sure, but I also think some of the questions that arise out of most recent elections are results that continue to come in over the course of weeks.
Why?
Which has
Why?
Why?
It used to be.
Well, so for example, some states can't start certifying mail ballots until Election Day. So just think about in Rhode Island, if the law said, and there's a bunch of states that do this, Pennsylvania, Florida, I believe, they can't start looking at mail ballots until Election Day. So that means that the hundreds of thousands of mail ballots in those states aren't going to be included in the results until the mail ballots are certified. And so that's why some states take forever to give the results. And I just quickly, before you go on.
Rhode Island results. I'm not worried about the other states' results.
Well, someone
I'm worried
asked
about
why,
Maryland's
though, other
results.
states, so I was just answering that. But to your point, I think we can validate the machines through that risk limiting audit process, and that a lot of
That
people.
doesn't tell me about the communications.
But it validates that the machines, it validates the machines read the ballots the way voters intended them
Yeah,
to.
it's a hand count.
It's a manual hand count of ballots.
Okay.
To ensure, open to the public, and some of you can even
I
volunteer.
participated
Oh,
in
you
that.
did? Yeah,
So
that's
I
right, I
know
saw you there.
three
So,
things that I found
The
not
data's
correct in
received,
them.
it's actually received early. So DS, Title 42, which is the book about receiving stuff, the government structures, and it's received early. So the ballots are actually scanned, and the CVRs that are in the scanners are actually, they have to read the ballot in order to have that information in there. So the trusted count, or there's kind of all of these security measures that to me, they're all necessary because it actually puts on a really good show. Not because it actually means that anybody can step up and say, can I do this or do that? Yes, you have risk-limited audits after the fact. Those risk-limited audits, we shouldn't even have to have if the process is correctly followed at the polling location on the day of election.
it's a balance, we want to make sure that we can mitigate and check all possibilities. And so whether or not it should or not happen, it does happen. So after every election, we make
That's
sure
right.
that those machines read the ballots the way the voters intend, which is really the entire point of the process. We want to make sure that when voters slide their ballot into a machine or put their ballot into an envelope for a mail ballot, that vote is being counted the way that it was intended. And we prove it through an open process with regular people hand counting ballots and matching those results to the machines.
So that those votes, the ones that are coming in and being submitted, are being scanned, and you're building both a local CVR and then later on a town-based CVR, and then additionally a state-based cast vote record. That's how you accumulate things, right? Machine-based to town-based to state-based. The CVRs have to be present. That's effectively your tabulation sheets. That's your counting sheets. Those are being received. However, they're tabulating. They are actually in the machine. And don't tell me it's just images. They're in the machine as a mechanism that is going to be able to produce a result fairly rapidly and called upon when the election is closed. So that CVR record is scanned. The scan is also in a black box. We can't see them inside the box. We're supposed to take your word and we're supposed to see what the counts are, but has been shown over and over again that it's possible to manipulate those things. And Arizona had all sorts of issues. I'm just bringing these up as illustrations. Yeah, there's different ways to fool the machines. And I can see that we have, right now, we're not going to be able to go into that level of detail, but there's a distinct difference in following through and having that exposed for the public and say, I have full confidence in our system. I'm not pointing fingers here. I think it's necessary that we try to do what we can within the law, but there's also issues with what we have, major process issues. And that's the point that I'm kind of making. When you have the instant results, people are saying there's air gaps. That by itself is misinformation, guys. When you say that the machines don't connect to the internet, when there has to be something uploaded almost instantly, that's misinformation.
Yes.
That's the very essence of misinformation. So in
Well,
terms of...
I don't think I've ever said that the machines aren't connected to the
Well,
internet.
not
We've
for
had
that, that's
people on
all
the
that
floor
was
with-
screened for the first,
we have
for the
people on the
last 3
floor.
years. No USBs and not connected
Well,
to the
they're-
internet. That's what was screened by the other side or both sides or whatever for a
All right, so
very long
I'm not
time.
on any side.
You were actually-
I know that when the voting day is done, that for a few seconds, there is a line that reports those results. So
So I had to push my
So
DS200 outside.
So technically speaking, yes, that's now, it's the most secure, and I cannot speak with you on equal footing on technological issues, but it is the most secure way to transmit these unofficial results that there is. But during the voting process itself, that system is not connected.
But you can't tell me, can you tell me right now, if your life depended upon that those machines were not connected at any point during that entire time?
I can tell you that they're not supposed to be connected.
Okay, that's all you can tell me, but you can't,
Well, I
if
mean,
your life
that's-
depended upon.
No, but I still, I can't stress enough that we have a process in place to ensure that did not happen.
Okay,
So the risk limiting audit,
so
so
say
you-
you-